What's up, gamers? And today we're going to talk about why the games are now as we know it and how existence of a small company created new Gamergate. All the fuss is about a small company called Sweet Baby Inc., which is much more important than we could think of. It was created in 2018 and nobody would know about its existence if the workers of this company would not brag about their collaboration with such games as Alan Wake 2 and Spider-Man 2 last year. And if you're interested in what the company is doing and how they get access to the major AAA games of the industry, you could just enter their website and look for the projects they are working on. You could find there almost all of the major gaming studios you can think of, like Ubisoft, Electronic Arts, Xbox Gaming Studios, and so on. In the About section you can find that this company is a narrative development and consultation studio, whose mission is to tell better, more empathetic stories while diversifying and enriching video games industry by making games more inclusive and meaningful, so that they could make the games safer. And every of the major gaming scandal of the last year brings us specifically to Sweet Baby Inc. when the matter is diversity and tolerance in games. Let's remember the issues with God of War Ragnarok, where Angeborg, despite its being the Scandinavian mythology, was presented in such way. But hey, there is Sweet Baby Inc. working with God of War Ragnarok, and it looks like they thought that there was not enough diversity in this game. Remember the absolutely hideous Saints Row 2020 about millennials who was doing some dumb shit and which is nothing like previous parts of the game? What a coincidence, Sweet Baby Inc. was also working with this game as well. Remember Sega Anderson in Quantum Break in 2016 was like this, and in Alan Wake 2 in 2023 she became like this. And it doesn't bring any narrative goal, just bam, it just happened. And yes, Sweet Baby Inc. was also working with Alan Wake 2. I will not even mention Spider-Man 2, where Miles Morales is the dominant Spider-Man and where Mary Jane was put wherever she can be put. And well, yes, I think you can remember how Mary Jane looked like. That was also Sweet Baby Inc., dear friends, because beautiful women are also offensive, I suppose. And this is what's happening with every AAA title, like Mortal Kombat 1. Have you ever wondered why there is such clothed female costumes for women in game? The answer is simple, Sweet Baby Inc., dear friends. And almost every game they lay their hands on you can notice their fingerprints on. And all of that would be a secret and somewhat mystical if some workers of Sweet Baby Inc. would not brag about them working there and how important they are for the industry. But before we go to the main cringe here, we need to talk why the gaming companies are using the services of Sweet Baby Inc. Alright, I suppose you do not know what is the grade ESG. It is environmental, social and governance. It is the grade of the company on how they are supporting some social norms and so on. You can think about it as a metric for tolerance, diversity and social well-being of every company. For example, if 50% of your company are people of specific gender, and in that way your ESG mark becomes higher. Or for example, if your game has a lot of racial diversity or are mentioned some of the cultural valuables of not so often mentioned in media cultures, it also allows for the companies to get the ESG rating higher when it will be time to give report to the investors. But the main question is why this ESG grade is so important for the major gaming companies. And here we are coming to the BlackRock Foundation. BlackRock is the largest multinational investment company, and this company is working with $10 trillion, and this is only the data for the 31st of December 2023. Essentially what the company is doing is taking money from big companies and investing it into some other projects to multiply the initial investment and get their share of profit from the income. If you have watched The Wolf of Wall Street, you get the idea of what is going on. But with the BlackRock are working all of the richest people of this world. This company is not as popular and famous and not lots of people know about this company existence, but the BlackRock chooses what you're getting in terms of Western media. When the BlackRock is choosing which company to invest in, they are choosing it based on the highest ESG grade. It is a very hypocritical scheme, and I doubt that they are trying to change our world for the best, since when there was a scandal with Bobby Kotick and Activision Blizzard, they were not trying to return their initial investments. Yes, the accusations were serious, but at the same time 50% of the management were women, so on paper their ranking was pretty high. And it is pretty bad stuff, since you look at the firing of the same Microsoft, 1900 people, and Sony recently, 900 people here as well. They were trying to keep the percentage of you know who to you know who. So you can guess in the comments who was mostly fired first. So for every company, the investment of BlackRock is the most important thing right now. That's why they're trying to maintain their highest ESG rating by trying to not insult anybody. So as mentioned before, Sweet Baby Inc. was founded in 2018, and if you can remember, that was the year when such a game as Battlefield 5 was released, and trailer of which made gamers to question some stuff in it. The thing was that it looked like stuff that will give you high ESG rating. That was a woman with prosthetic arm and some other stuff which did not look like the World War II. Since then, you can see lots of similar stuff in video games, films and so on, when your main character, white male, are trying to get fined in favor of some other character who will make ESG rating go higher. For example, Sony has tight connections with Sweet Baby Inc., what you could notice in the same Horizon Forbidden West, Spider-Man 2, Last of Us 2, God of War Ragnarok, and I suppose we'll see something similar in Wolverine as well. Moments when Sweet Baby Inc. are entering the stage are very obvious. Usually it is the moments in games when the game becomes boring and you want to skip it, but it lasts for a very long period of time. But all of it is necessary to get investment, so the game should be at the top of safety, diversity, and so on. Yes, the game about Harley Quinn did not sell very well, but maybe it disappointed a lot of people, but at the same time it got the ESG rating a bit higher for Warner Brothers. And Warner Brothers liked the investment from BlackRock a lot. But if you would be the only BlackRock, it would be only the half of the problem. But following their example, other foundations are doing the same thing, like the same Vanguard and many others. That's why after another fail, we think that industry will change their course of action and will make things differently, make games for gamers and not people from Twitter. Nothing will change, because investments from these foundations are crucial for the developers, and developers will try to hide these things in games in the most secret way possible. That's why if you like some big franchises, lose hope of them changing in the nearest future. The funny thing is that Japanese companies like Square Enix are also interested in ESG grade, who did the same for Spoken in collaboration with Sweet Baby Inc., and I suppose you remember what a failure Forspoken was. So essentially everything I have described above was not to make gaming industry a better place, but just a thing to receive better investment. So what is happening right now with Sweet Baby Inc. and why we are talking about it right now? The thing is that one lad from Brazil decided to become a curator in Steam to show the games which were made in collaboration with Sweet Baby Inc. He marked these games as not recommended and shows the source in the comment section, where it has been taken either from the Sweet Baby Inc. website or some other source of information. It would look like it's just a niche subject which will impact nothing, but the workers of the company Sweet Baby Inc. decided to show this thing to the world, asking to report the creator of the page. The screenshot can be seen on your screens right now. But the funny thing is that mass reporting from a public person is what violates the terms of Twitter, and the guy later has just closed his profile. And the hype was as big that this curator has grown from 1k of subscribers to up to 55k, and right now this number is even higher. So the guy who decided to spend his time to cancel this Brazilian guy caused this reaction when he himself was cancelled. But the second character is even more interesting, so let's read his tweets. The screenshots are on the screen. The funny thing is that the person from the screenshots is working for Sweet Baby Inc., what is shown in his profile. Also funny thing is that this person has called everyone racist, but at the same time asked for government to take part in this problem. Another funny thing, if these people have not mentioned it, the so-called problem would not see the surface, and would have stayed pretty niche subject. But that is not the tastiest thing. The person from the second part of the screenshots is not just a regular worker. This is a bonding person between Anita Sarkeesian and the first Gamergate. I will not go deep in the first Gamergate, there are countless of videos about it on YouTube, but long story short, that gamers' movement against gaming journalists who appear to be pretty corrupted. Especially one girl, Zoe Queen, who was sleeping with one of the journalists in order to get a better review of her game. And also she made some serious accusations, and one of the developers, Nathan the Woods, to commit an action due to which he is no longer with us. So as you can understand, this is not the most loved person in the internet community. And also Anita Sarkeesian is the woman who has stated that all of the games are offensive and that everything should be changed and so on. But let's return to the person from Sweet Baby Inc. One YouTuber, oh no it's Alex, has performed an investigation, opened a website of the company called Silver Lining, and essentially that was something similar to the Sweet Baby Inc. and found out that one of the advisors of the company, surprise surprise, was Anita Sarkeesian. What proved that Sweet Baby Inc. is putting forward the same idea as Anita and is doing the same thing here where Anita has failed before. And Sweet Baby Inc. is now performing the same thing what Gamergate 1 has fought against 10 years before. But also the funniest thing is that the same person in 2014 was talking to Zoe Queen, bragging about developing some bad, in their terms, website. So by their thoughts, their actions, as you can see, that is pretty radical people in their views. And considering what type of power they have, they can change dialogues, change the plot, change characters' motivation, and I am pretty worried about the future of games like Valorant and others, where these types of companies will take part in for sure. For big companies, they are pretty convenient tool to change the game in order to not be offensive, so the company would get higher ESG score and BlackRock funding. But in the mind of these people, they are gods of this world, who change modern people's destinies, since they get access to change your modern entertainment however they'd like. So if you like some gaming characters, sorry my friend, he will be get rid of in the worst way possible. And it includes any AAA game from any company, any developer. All of them are connected with the same scheme. This is literally the system of censorship when we will not get any modern, brave solutions, interesting plots, some spicy moments. Because it can be offensive, that's why right now everything must be family friendly. And Sweet Baby Inc. is not the only such team. Others just have enough brain to keep away from the publicity. So now, the same thing noticed long ago like agenda in games, now this agenda has the face of the team implementing this stuff in games, bringing us to the Gamergate 2.0. And continuing the story, nobody could think that following the conflict, which started with some tweets from the worker of Sweet Baby Inc., we have what we have. Higher power has joined the discussion like some journalist from Kotaku and Eurogamer who was trying to soften the hit on Sweet Baby Inc. Also, some developers said that Sweet Baby Inc. was not doing the things that everybody thought about. So what feels right now is that gamers are not against the only company of Sweet Baby Inc., but against the whole conglomerate of the companies trying to cover their ass and plant the idea that such companies provide services that doesn't make games worse, and that is okay for developers to work with such companies like Sweet Baby Inc. And it appeared also that there is more companies like Sweet Baby Inc. there. There is the whole list which some people try to censor and remove from Twitter right now. The whole list of companies created just to add some stuff to the games which gamers wouldn't like to see in the major titles. And as mentioned before, all of this was done just to get ESG score and get some investments from companies like BlackRock. As said before, there are a lot more companies like BlackRock and Sweet Baby Inc., so the cycle will go on and almost nothing will change, because otherwise investment to the major developers will be cut off. So people who are celebrating right now victory against Sweet Baby Inc. do not get that the stuff we see right now is only the tip of the iceberg, which we as gamers will never move. So what is happening right now is that everyone tried to get the situation covered. The description on the website of Sweet Baby Inc. got changed. At first there was written some stuff about diversity and all of that, but now the only thing mentioned is that they are a team of narrative developers. But it was strange, so sometime after they have returned the original description to their website. For the following tale, we need also to understand the concept of DEI, or Diversity, Equity and Inclusion, specifically the stuff that Sweet Baby Inc. adds to the games. The thing is that workers of Sweet Baby Inc. have gone to different journalists like at Kotaku, Eurogamer and others, give an interview about how people do not get what they are doing in reality. And it's not just major journalists, lots of websites write about how you should support Sweet Baby Inc. and not be against diversity and inclusion, because gamers' main enemy is capitalism, battle passes and live services. Or some titles like how a small video game narrative studio would up the heart of a massive anti-woke conspiracy theory. So they are trying to make gamers who are fighting against Sweet Baby Inc. like babies who are at the heart of the conspiracy theory. But here we have a head of Sweet Baby Inc. on GDC explaining what they do, and it sounds horrible.
The co-founder of Sweet Baby Inc. proudly explains the method that she uses to force bosses at game studios to censor, alter, and diversify game projects she feels are problematic, terrify them, aka threaten them with the anger of the cancel culture mob. Okay, let's listen to what's said.
If you're a creative working in AAA, which I did for many, many years, put this stuff up to your higher-ups, and if they don't see the value in what you're asking for when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want.
So after watching this video, we have the answer how Sweet Baby Inc. entered so many gaming studios and why such scandals exist in the first place. Tactics of political activists apply to the modern capitalistic society. When the worker of the company goes to a market department of the game and starts telling them how the game is not inclusive enough in their thoughts, and that we need to hire a company who will help us with that. Because head of any gamer studio doesn't care about the artistic storytell of the game. The thing they care about is the ESG score, which will provide them with investment. Long story short, what is happening right now is that some developers are trying to gaslight gamers in terms of that everything is fine, that it's standard for the industry, and they make it seem that there is no point in being mad about it. For example, PC Gamer writes that Sweet Baby Inc. became a target despite their services being normal for years. But the reason is that Vogue's story was not something random and not a creative views of some developers. All this time, people who noticed that, they were told that they are conspiracy theorists and Vogue stuff in games is not real and that you are just centered on it. But now, it was revealed that there are specific companies which collaborate with developers and add it to their games. And now it won't work to call people crazy because it's actually true. And there is more. Many developers started to defend Sweet Baby Inc. saying that they are doing important work. For example, here is a developer for upcoming Wolverine game. Feel free to pause and read these awesome tweets about how she has worked with Sweet Baby Inc. telling that they are best in the business. And yes, right now you have read some tweets of a narrative director of the future game about Wolverine and also the game of Spider-Man Miles Morales. Yes, it works like that, we couldn't write decent characters, so we called for a Vogue company like Sweet Baby Inc. in order for them to finish our job and add wokeness without normal character development. You know, I've always thought that the description of world, character development and so on is developers' business and that there is no such thing that they do not have enough time to make a character deeper. And now I understand why we have what we have, such boring plot in Spider-Man, Miles Morales and other games from Insomniac, Now we have understanding that AAA and quadruple-A games with huge budgets are depending on investments, so they have to follow the demands of the investors to receive money by making games more watery, boring, and shitty at the end, just in favor of budget. The latest Spider-Man game costs $300 million, more than a film about Spider-Man, and to get such money you need to follow along investor guidelines, and so they have to call Sweet Baby Inc. and by the end of the day. So if you thought that mission about a deaf girl in Spider-Man or the fact that mission for Mary Jane have more screen time than Venom in the game about Spider-Man was a creative step, you are completely wrong, and now you know the truth. And this is what's happening with all major AAA games with huge budgets. Remember Battlefield 2042 and our issue with the absence of leaderboard, which is called by pressing tab button? I wanna ask purely hypothetical question, can you imagine the developers telling BlackRock about it in terms of making the game more user-friendly, as a safe space with less toxicity, which is more welcoming for the gamers who doesn't play so good? I've just taken it from the top of my head right now, knowing everything you know about Sweet Baby Inc., it stops sounding like a conspiracy absurd and more like a probable theory. I have no problem with minorities inclusion and diversity in the first place. I have a problem with developers adding minorities and diversity for diversity's sake, with shitty plot, shitty motivation and shitty characters, but with diversity. It makes games worse since the priorities have changed and now it's more important to add a non-binary woman with disability than to explain why do we need her and what's her motivation. It makes games boring since you cannot follow along with the narrative of the whole game and the focus of the whole plot is changing from being logical, interesting and entertaining to being inclusive and full of diversity. So if we get that, let's get through the interview of the Sweet Baby Inc. worker to Kotaku, where she tells that gamers cannot imagine that they are just talented writers, and that they are not just adding only DEI. It all looks like they are just trying to cover their ass by this interview, and that the whole article looks like it's being paid for, because of such things as Sweet Baby Inc. isn't forcing diversity, it's happening naturally. The article wants to change focus from diversity, Sweet Baby Inc. bringing to the games, to them being just narrative designers and creators who add value to the characters and plot as a whole. But for Christ's sake, on their own website is written that they add diversity, that their first priority and specialty. And every article I've read from Kotaku, Eurogamer, PC Gamer, as a copy-paste write about Sweet Baby Inc. being just a narrative team and not just woke diversity project. And as a magic, no one writes about workers of Sweet Baby Inc. organizing harassment company to cancel the guy who is a curator for Sweet Baby Inc. detected on Steam, asking to send reports for his page. And as mentioned before, Sweet Baby Inc. detected has more than 220 followers right now, and after receiving lots of reports for the page, Valve representatives told that it doesn't violate community guidelines and let these curators stay as it is. Ironically, the second Gamergate appeared on the 10th anniversary of the first Gamergate, and most ironically, Nathan Grayson, the guy who has slept with Zoe Queen for a good review of her game, is now supporting Sweet Baby Inc. in this conflict. Unfortunately, I have to summarize that gamers do not stand a chance in this conflict since such great money and companies are on the other side of the barricade. So all what's left is to sit down and watch everything burn to the ground and hoping that the next AAA project will be not so obvious woke implementation with better storyline and no just diversity for diversity's sake like it was in Far Cry 6.